the guitar sounds okay. Um, Good. So I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about this project first. So the idea, I had this idea about a couple weeks ago. Because of the virus, at the university where I teach, Belmont University, we had to end the semester with online classes because the virus and all that. And I had a couple like master classes on Zoom with my students, having guests, and I wanted to do some more of that during the summer. Like I had a few big gigs this summer that were all canceled. Of course, had a trip to Italy in May now that was canceled. Had a trip to Brazil to play there too. So now I'm here in Nashville, my house in Nashville, practicing and teaching online. And I thought, at first, I thought maybe I'm gonna do something with my students and reach out to all of them and have some kind of big class on Zoom, have guests. But then I thought a little more, and I realized that would be about the same amount of work if I open this up to all my friends and some people that like guitar, and actually a lot of people that I haven't talked in a while. So I figured I should just let them know about this, or some people that are somehow connected to Belmont, alumni, incoming students. So I tried to reach out to everybody so we could spend some time together here, talk about guitar and music. So that's the idea behind that. I call it six string talk because we are gonna be talking for obvious reasons, and also doing a little bit of playing. So my plan is to do that every week, if possible. And I'm always going to start by myself, sharing some ideas, and then on the second half, I'll have a guest. Today, I have a really dear friend of mine, amazing guitarist, great teacher, here with me, and I'm gonna bring him in a few minutes here to join us in this conversation. We're gonna talk to him and learn a little bit about his career and his path as a musician. And I'll come back to him in a second. As far as topic for today, today I want to talk a little bit about practice in general. And I know that we are going to have a lot of different students watching us here today. Classical guitarists, jazz guitarists, commercial guitarists, some amateurs, and you guys are all welcome here. And my hope is that this content will help all of you at some extent. That's kind of the goal. Let me get closer here a little bit to the camera. So, yeah. And also, I really hope we can you guys can ask questions too, and we're gonna open for questions in a second. So if you have questions about guitar, about practice, about career, about life in Nashville, about Belmont University, that's where I teach, I will be glad to answer. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Paulo Oliveira. I'm a Brazilian guitarist. I was born and raised in São Paulo, Brazil, and moved to the United States in 2011 for my master's degree in classical guitar. So I went to University of Missouri in 2011, where I did my master's in classical guitar. Then I stayed there a little longer, got a master's in jazz guitar. Then after that, I moved to Colorado, University of Colorado, where I got my degree, my doctorate in guitar performance. And I was studying mostly classical guitar, but I was also doing a lot of jazz during my time there. So that's that combination of classical guitar, jazz. It's a really important part of what I do and what I teach. I also love other styles like rock and pop music that I was raised listening to that music. So it's really important part of me too. Yeah, so you guys know a little bit about me. And then I came to Belmont in 2017 as I was brought in as faculty, teaching both commercial guitar, jazz guitar, and classical guitar. Great. So I know you guys are thinking about questions there, and we're going to be happy to answer. Again, the idea behind this, like, I want to be really interactive. I want you guys to ask questions and share ideas through the chat. I'm gonna do my best here to um, to keep track of the questions. I know there's a lot of questions, and I have a few things to manage here, but I'll do my best to address everything. Um, let's start a little bit talk about practicing, because I think one of the most challenges a lot of students have is what to practice and how to practice, because it doesn't matter if you like classical or jazz or rock. There's so many different things that we need to work on, that sometimes we can get a little lost, right? And sometimes how to divide our time. What I'm gonna share with you guys here today is a very, very simple method, but that for me throughout the years helped me a lot, especially when I didn't have a lot of time. So it's really powerful for students and anybody who wants to get better at an instrument, is to be able to organize your practice. And how can you do that? I'm a firm believer that when you write things down and you have it in front of you, it's easier to know what to do, rather than sit down, get your guitar, and okay, like now I have no idea what to practice. Like I have like 3 hours, but I just start noodling. I can be noodling for 3 hours and not learn anything, and that's a waste of time. So you need to be laser focused when you practice and know exactly what to do during that time, and create a practice schedule. So what I want to share with you guys here today is this idea of a practice schedule. So I'm going to invite you guys to take a look at this with me. I have a very simple table here that you guys can see. Just made on Excel, very, very simple. And what do you do here? You'd have a column here for the task. And it's important, rather than practicing one thing for hours, you want to have smaller blocks of time for different topics. So, for example, here on that column here, you have the task. So this first one here, I just wrote like a sample one, and these numbers are gonna change. And also what to practice is gonna change depending on what you're doing, right? And that's why it's also important to have a teacher to help you guide in knowing what you should be practicing. But this is just an idea to get you started. So if you're gonna be like a rock jazz guitarist, I'm gonna be able to improvise and be able to read music. Here are a few things that you could do. Spend some time transcribing, some time learning tunes, sometimes studying voicings, studying sight reading, sometimes studying technique, and sometimes just jamming and improvising over songs. What happens a lot is that a lot of students spend a lot of time here just jamming and improving all day, and it's fine, but you have to make sure you organize your time and you don't spend all your time here, because you're only going to be playing the same old things you always play. So you want to make sure that you're always learning new things for your vocabulary, melodic material, harmonic material, voicings, and so on. So dividing your schedule like that can be really beneficial. For example, transcription like 20 minutes, tune 20 minutes. Obviously 20 minutes is not a lot of time, but let's say you don't have a lot of time during the day, and you just have like 1 hour, a little over an hour. If you do this every single day with diligence and discipline, you'd be amazing like how much you can get done in a month or in 6 months. So the consistency, that's gonna make you better. The consistency of practice. So really keep that in mind. Hopefully those numbers here will be higher, of course. And the way I do it, I set those are like minimum, so I'm really busy. At least I want to touch a little bit of on each of those things every day. And if I have more time, obviously I will spend more time. A topic like transcription, it takes a really long time. Transcribing, it's a really challenging task. So you want to make sure you have enough time to do that. Same thing with tunes. As your list of tunes gets bigger and longer, you want to make sure that the tunes you learn, you have time to go through all of them, because you can forget them. Same with voicings and reading. reading is hard to read on guitar, but if you just are diligent and every day you open your book and read 10, 15 minutes, at the end of 6 months you'll be amazed with the result. Uh, and here I have one here, a simple one for a classical guitarist, for those who play a lot of like solo repertoire and things like that. You have here old repertoire, you have some time to revisit old things that you have played, and have some time for the new things that you are learning, some time for sight reading, some time for technique. For technique, I mean just raw technique like exercises and things like that. Great. So here I just wanted to give you guys an overview of the way I think about this, and especially when you don't have a lot of time, I think that's a really nice way to organize. And printing that and putting that on your wall, waking up in the morning, and there it is, like it's right there in front of you. You know what to do. Like, you don't sit on the chair without knowing what to practice. So I think that's a pretty powerful tool. It's simple, but it's very powerful. All right, great guys, very good. Let me ask again here really quick. Is the sound okay? Is it clear? I see someone is having problem, but I think most people are okay, right? Just let me know. All right, thank you, Jose. Great. Any questions about this idea of practice? If you guys want to type it there, you're welcome to ask how I approach practice and how I do that, because we are almost done with this part here of the talk. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Before we move on, before I bring Mike here, I'm gonna play a little tune, just a short improvisation here. Just to I already talked too much, so we need to listen to some music. I'm gonna play a little arrangement. It's more like an improvisation on "Summertime" by George Gershwin. I don't really call it an arrangement, because although some of it are worked out in advance, a lot of it is improvised. So it's kind of like a hybrid of is an arrangement and an improvisation at the same time. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and play, and after that I'll get to the questions. pessoal. Obrigado. Obrigado. Obrigado por assistir. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you all so much. We have a lot of friends here from Brazil, some friends here from the US. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. It's a lot of fun. You know, it's the closest thing you can get from to a concert. You know, and it's great to be here, be able to play and share some music. Thank you. Okay, let's check out some questions here before we get to Mike. Okay, so let's check some questions here. Sam Burns, my student, a master student here at Belmont. Thank you, Sam, for your question here. He's asking, would you also add performance practice? Yes, yes. That list is just an example. There are a lot of different things that I would add to that list. And performance practice, by performance practice, Sam means just practicing performing the piece as you'd perform live. Just playing the piece or the arrangement from beginning to the end without stopping, you know. Depending on what you're doing, right? If you're preparing for a concert, your practice routine will be different, you know. So right now, don't really have any concerts coming up. So my practice has been just exploring new things, making mistakes, coming back. If I was preparing for a concert, that would be different. That list would change a lot. If I'm playing more classical stuff, the list is gonna change. But the performance practice is definitely very important. Logan is asking here a question. What's a good way to find new songs? That's a good question. By new songs, it depends, I think, a little bit what you're looking for as a musician, right? If you want to challenge yourself, I mean, nowadays with the internet, I mean, you can find anything. There are lots of like forums and like even YouTube, Spotify. You can do a lot. You can do some search and find some new stuff there. What I do actually, I ask my friends. You know, that's a really simple answer. But musicians that I know that inspire me, and I always ask them what they're listening to. I think that's a good way. And also, as far as getting better on guitar, if you have a teacher, that would be the idea, because the teacher will tell you something that's appropriate to your level that would be beneficial for you. I know that I didn't fully answer the question, but if you are thinking about to find songs to play on guitar and get better, I still think, you know, having a good teacher to guide you is the best solution. Richard is asking how much time do I spend on warming up? It depends. If I have time, like I might spend more time doing like slow scales and technique. In real life situation, when I have to go to the university, teach and do all things I have to do, it's pretty hard to find a lot of time. But I always encourage the students, especially when you're getting more familiar with your technique and building your muscle memory. I think it's very important to spend some time warming up, playing very slow. I think it depends, but I would say at least a good 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, especially for classical guitar. For me, it takes actually a little longer to warm up. So yeah, I'll do that at least 10 to 15 minutes, but that can change. Great. Robbie, how do you personally divide your time between genres? That's a really good question, and that's a really difficult thing. I've been fighting with this for 20 years, just playing both styles, going from electric to classical. In real life, to be honest, it depends on the gigs I have, because a lot of times I'm so busy that I have to just prepare for the next gig. Now during the quarantine here at home, I come up with the schedule, because I know that, for example, I'm practicing more electric guitar lately, but I know that I need to have my 30-minute block every day to touch my classical and play some scales, play some repertoire. So it depends. It depends on what I'm doing. It depends on the kind of jobs I have coming up. Last summer I had a trip to Asia, where I played in China and Malaysia, and it was all classical guitar. I was still playing jazz, but all on a nylon string classical guitar. So I didn't touch the electric guitar for a month, which was not ideal, but I had to focus on that style during that time. Now during the quarantine here, I'm trying to just play a little more electric and learn some new tunes, transcribing a little bit. I'm actually doing a lot of transcriptions lately. I'm learning some Pat Martino solos and some Pat Metheny songs. So that's what I've been doing lately. Great, a lot of great questions here. Uh, uh, so I have a question from a Brazilian friend here. It's a funny question because Americans they call songs tunes, and he's a Brazilian Portuguese speaker. He was asking why Americans call songs or pieces like tunes. I don't know. If anybody knows, any of my American friends, I guess it's just something about the language. You have synonyms for pieces and tunes and compositions, so it's just another meaning. But if someone wants to reply to him on the chat and let him know, I don't have much more to offer that. Rafa, thank you so much for joining us. Rafa is a great bass player, friend of mine from Brazil. Great, awesome. So we are gonna here get to the second part of our interview. I have a really, really dear guest for this first meeting here that we are having with Six String Talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about him before I bring him in. Mike is a electric guitar player, great colleague. First of all, we worked together at Belmont. I met him in 2017 when I moved here, and we do a lot of things together at the university. We run ensembles, and we do auditions together and things like that. And you're gonna learn a little more about what he does, and he will be sharing some tips with you guys too, and you're gonna get to know a little bit more about his career. Mike, are you there? Can you say hi to everybody?
Hey, buddy, what's happening?
Hey Mike, good to see you, brother.
Thanks again for having me, man. It's good to see you.
Great to see
Hi,
you.
everybody. This is my first YouTube live. This is my first live anything. I've never gone live before. You know that?
Yeah, but I bet you played a lot of live gigs.
A lot of live gigs.
Yeah.
Never any this type of live though.
Yeah.
I'm psyched. I'm psyched.
It's great. I mean, it's I never really thought of myself like doing lives like that. I was telling you earlier, but it's just a great way to interact with people that are interested in the same things that we are, and it's a way also to share a little bit of what we are doing. A lot of people here are really far away from us, and with the virus thing, we can't even, with a lot of limitations now. I thought maybe it's a good time, to get together with a friend or someone that guitarists like you that are, it's not only a great guitarist but a great teacher, just to share some ideas with people that also want to get better at guitar, people that wanna learn more about career, about technique, improvisation, and all those things. So I think that's the perfect platform for us.
I agree. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So what should we talk about?
Well, let's start a little bit. Do you want to just introduce yourself and tell everybody like who you are and a little bit how you started on the guitar, maybe?
Sure. I'm originally from a little bit north of Boston. I'm from a town in Massachusetts called Lowell, Massachusetts. It's actually where I am right now. I currently reside in Nashville, but my wife and I came back to Massachusetts for a little bit while my parents were in lockdown in Florida for the time being. So came to check up on the house I grew up in. So that's where I am right now. I'm not in my proper office at the moment, so I have my makeshift setup here. So I hope it's going to sound good for everybody. But this is where I'm from. I studied up here. After high school, I attended Berklee College of Music. I got a degree in music education from Berklee. And then I later matriculated onto the University of Massachusetts and got my grad work in performance there.
Mm-hmm.
And all the while, always always taught up here from the time I graduated college. I taught in various capacities, taught middle school when I first got out of school and moved on to high school, and then moved to Nashville after that.
Mm-hmm. Great, awesome, awesome. And we have a lot of guitarists here, and that's a question that guitarists ask very often. To their teachers or people or guitarists that they admire. I want to know from you. Tell us a little bit about your influences on the guitar and just general. I mean, this question is so tough because we
Yeah,
like a
I
lot
guess
of
it all
different stuff.
depends. I mean, I guess it all, we had that album challenge going around Facebook
Yeah.
recently, like the albums, and I'm kind of known as like a kind of like a fusion sort of contemporary guy, but all my influences ended up being like 80s pop tunes because it's like, all right, I was born in 1972. It's like, what do you think my influences were? I didn't. I'm a son of Greek immigrants. I wasn't. The first music I heard was music from my dad's parts of Greece. So other than that, it was my influences. That's what got me playing guitar, right?
Uh-huh.
MTV. I think I can remember what was the first thing that made me ask my mom for guitar lessons. Remember that tune?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like I Need Somebody by Bryan Adams, right? Like saw
Yes.
that
Uh-huh.
MTV. What is that? That's a Strat. It sounds awesome. I asked my mom if I could take guitar lessons. So my early influences, of course, it was pop, it was radio, it was MTV, it was all that good stuff. It was Van Halen, and that made me want to play guitar.
Uh,
Um, and it probably I was a late bloomer, to be honest with you. When we're talking about a lot of the topics we're talking about here, like art music and standards and improvisation, I always had great teachers. I had teachers from the get go. I mean, from the time I was 12 years old, when I first picked up the instrument, I studied privately up until I moved to Nashville. To be honest with you, I never really stopped. Um, I was always taught the fundamentals. I was always taught the right things to learn, but I probably didn't get that bug for jazz and improvisation and standards until a little bit later on. I was a little bit of a late bloomer. But then once that hit, that set a trajectory for everything that would come later. But yeah, my earliest influences were just commercial pop music. As far as the people that shaped what I think, if you heard me play, it's like people can say, all right, I hear a little bit of my top five that made me who I am. It has to be like Mike Stern, Martino, Scott Henderson, John Schofield, Wayne Krantz. So if we're talking guitar players, if you heard my output, I think it'd be safe to say that people would say, all right, I can hear those. But as you know, how can you list all your influences? I love Bill Evans. I love Sonny Stitt. I love drummers.
uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah,
it's
no, that's great,
very
man.
very fast. It's
That's
very
great, and I mean I can relate. I can relate to that. I was born and raised in Brazil, and I mean I just started guitar was because of rock, and music from the '80s and early '90s. I wanted to play like Joe Satriani. That was like, the first time I heard like Surfing with the Alien, like I went crazy. I was like, is that guitar? Like
It's
way
like
before I've thought about jazz or about classical guitar. Was like my uncle had an album, a live album, Joe Satriani, and I was like, and I summer song, like I remember like trying to learn those harmonics. I was like, wow, that's so cool.
that
And
album was Time Machine. Is that
Time
the one you?
Machine, yes,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I listened to that Time Machine album so much that
Yeah.
I think for a year, like I listened to it every day. I learned a few of those tunes. Was great. It was a great school. And it's interesting that you say that because I think we've got that in common. I think our styles might be a little different, but if you look at our influence in a way, like we both have that rock thing going, and then we got more interested in jazz. And I mean,
I would
you are like a true fusion guy. I'm kind of like a fake fusion Brazilian, classical, but
use fusion because we really don't have another word. I think it's just people that are just love music. People just love. I can't put myself in a box like that. I love listening to a Duke Ellington ballad as much as I love listening to Rage Against the Machine. And you know what I mean? Music is music to me. So I think we have no other word than fusion. It's going to, all of those influences will filter through you somehow, and you'll end up with your own voice,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, before we keep going here, would you like? I will see that you have your guitar there ready to go. Would you like to play something for us? We have 31, 32 people here watching us. Thank you all so much for being with us here, watching and hanging out with us. And Mike is gonna play something for us now. And after he plays, we are gonna open up for questions here because we want to make sure that you guys, to interact with you guys a little bit. Now you know a little bit more about Mike. Actually, Mike, before we open for questions, because I think it's better if we talk about this now, because people might have questions about this. I know, because I know you. We hang out together all the time. I know that you play the gig with a pretty big guitarist a year or two ago, rock guitarist. I heard you play with Steve Vai. Tell us about this. How that happened. We lost your sound a little bit.
How's that?
Yeah, now, yeah, we got you.
That got muted for some reason. Anyway, I'll tell you exactly how that happened. It's the weirdest story. I was on a session in Nashville. I was at Blackbird Studios. I was doing a country session. It was like a demo session, just playing like, just really like, just kind of rock bro country type of stuff. And you know how it works in Nashville over sessions. You cut a tune, you go back into the control room, you listen to the demo, you're looking at the chart for the next tune. So in the middle of that, my phone rings, and I didn't pick it up because it was right in the middle of this thing. And then I don't know, something told me to listen to the message. It was rather unprofessional to do in a setting like that, but something told me to listen to the message. So I listened to the message, and it was the director of the Alabama Symphony Orchestra. And he said, he got my name from our mutual boss, John Pell, who heads up the guitar department at Belmont. And he said, we're doing a feature with Steve Vai in full orchestra, and we need a guitarist for the slot. And I just went cold. You know what I mean? It was just like my heart was beating through my chest. I couldn't respond to it. I just had to listen to the voicemail and just put it away because I had to go back into the tracking room and cut this tune next within like a matter of like a minute. So I have to go into the tracking room, and now I get this chart in front of me. I have to think about what this tune is, what guitar I want to play, what's the vibe. And all I got in my head is I just got called to play with Steve Vai. I'm just like, imagine what that would be like. Needless to say, I don't know how my tracks came out. They probably ended up replacing all my tracks on that tune. It was probably nonsense. But in any case, I got the material, and to be honest with you, I actually thought about not doing it for a good 24 hours because it was the most difficult music I had ever seen.
I remember you showed it to me.
Yeah, it was the most intimidating thing I had ever seen. Because, okay, yeah, his stuff is difficult, but I grew up on it. I could do those rhythm parts, but he composed music that sounded like a combination of Leonard Bernstein and John Cage. And there was a Zappa piece, which was impossible to read. I'm a pretty good sight reader, and I couldn't make heads or tails of it. It looked like gibberish, But I said to myself, you have to say yes. You just have to say yes and figure it out later, because this is one of those defining moments where it's not even about the resume. It's not even about that. It's about proving to yourself that your hard work was worth it and that you could do something like that. And, long story short, it was really scary. Rehearsal was horrifying, but then the gig went good. It was one of,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the most gracious, amazing, everything you always hear about him. You know, a perfectionist, but incredibly just giving and gracious. And yeah, that was an amazing experience.
That's great. That thanks for sharing that, man.
Sure, sure.
That's really cool. Well, so the plan now, Mike's gonna play something for us, and then after he plays, we're gonna use the rest of our time here just to answer questions and talk a little bit. I might have a couple, maybe one or two questions for Mike, but if you guys wanna ask anything, while he plays, you guys. Think about questions, and if you guys want to start typing it there, we can answer. Mike, tell us what we are gonna play, and talk a little bit about the piece.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because you asked me to maybe play a little bit, and as much as we talk about like the style that influences us, and we can talk about this later too. I really am a firm believer that standards are the gateway to finding your voice, and something I've learned in my later or my current part of my career, where I guess is getting into my later part of my career, but. I think learning tunes from the Great American Songbook in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I think some of that music is what's, even if you don't want to be a straight ahead jazz player, it's going to be important and help you find your own voice. So I'm going to play one of my most favorite tunes ever by Leonard Bernstein. It's from the movie version of the musical On the Town. And man, it's the most heartbreaking tune. Basically, the tune talks about how our time is fleeting, and how our time together is bittersweet because it doesn't last forever. And the refrain always ends with the words, "Oh well, we'll catch up some other time," is the name of the tune. And if you listen to Bill Evans' version with Tony Bennett, and if you listen to Bill's version solo, it's one of those tunes where if it doesn't break your heart, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. So I'm gonna play a little bit of this and try to do it justice, and try not to be nervous because I'm on a live. great. Isn't that a
beautiful.
beautiful song, man?
That's beautiful, man. And you played great too.
Thank you, man.
That
I
was
love you. Gotta listen to Bill Evans do that tune. I
yeah.
tried to grab a couple little things of his in there. I think I
Uh-huh.
grabbed like one or two things that Bill did. It's hard to do in the moment, but man, listen to Bill and Tony Bennett do that tune on their duo record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's here's the tip here for everybody that want to get into jazz. Check out that recording for sure. Nice voicings too, and nice touch. Um, Great. Now we are gonna open here the floor for some questions, and those questions can be for me or for Mike or for both of us. Feel free to ask. I'm gonna start. There are already a couple questions here, so I'm gonna check out here. So, André Apolinário, tudo bem? Welcome. He's asking here. Do you remember what was the first piece of classical music you played on the guitar? Oof, I do remember. And I remember that was a piece that way too hard for me at the time because I was just like playing electric guitar, playing rock, didn't know anything about classical guitar. And instead of using all my fingers, I remember I played everything with those two fingers here. Was pretty interesting. Was Lágrima by Francisco Tárrega. And the reason was because I went, there was a test on a school in São Paulo. It's like a public music school that, if you pass the test, like you go in, you are accepted at the school. And that was the required piece. So I had a teacher at the time, great Geraldo, good friend of ours, that my friend of my family that taught me that piece. And was way above my pay grade, but I had to learn it because I wanted to get in that school. That was a really good school and was free, so I was like, I need to learn this. So I worked really hard with the technique kind of wrong, but I figured it out. So it was Lágrima by Francisco Tárrega. Thanks for the question, André. That was a good one. Was a good time, trying to learn that. It was hard, but I did it. Cool. We're waiting here on more questions. Mike, we have a few some guitarists here with us. If can you share us? We'll talk a little bit about practicing, right? I shared with them a little bit about the practice routine. Do you have any thoughts to add to that conversation about practice?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I guess it all depends on the stage of life that we're in. That's the key part of it. When I was studying heavily, I mean, I can go back to my schooling. When I was in undergrad, it was like a lot of undergrad students. You're overwhelmed. You're taking a million courses. You're trying to get everything done. I remember being younger and scrambling a lot to try and just have something regimented. I feel like graduate school is when I really started to get that together. I remember having a very strict practice schedule, especially during the summers when I had all the time in the world to practice. So there was time for, I would carve out a time for linear study. So that would just be modes and sequences. Okay, there's a sequence on C major. Okay, now do it C Dorian. C Lydian. Do it C Dorian. You know what I mean? Like, so just whatever linear studies I was doing. Then I would carve out a section to do anything harmonic, okay, voicings, drop twos, drop threes, triads, whatever it was. So I would always have that harmonic stuff. Then I would have what I would call my vertical study. So I would sit there and just run arpeggios diatonically, however I was working on arpeggios. I would have a time carved out for ear training. I would have a time carved out for transcription. I would have a time carved out for, like you said in your practice schedule, improvisation, just soloing over tunes. For a lot of the stuff you mentioned, learning tunes. So at the height of my practicing, especially when I had the summers off, because I was also teaching school, so I had summers off during that time. It was like 10-hour practice days, So, we don't all have the time to do that for the rest of our lives. Uh, I think it's important that in combination with amazing teachers to not only tell you what to practice, but also to teach you how to learn so that you can then teach yourself down the road. Like now, when I need to work on something, I know exactly how to work on something. If I have 15 minutes, I don't dilly dally. I pick up my guitar with a purpose. I never pick up this guitar and noodle ever. I don't have time for noodling. I have to work on something. So I think it's about being honest with yourself about what you have to work on if you don't have a teacher. A teacher is obviously helpful. I'm so lucky to have some of the best teachers of all time to give me that direction. Um, nowadays, nowadays for me, it's tunes. I think what I'm working on the most now is just getting my ears better as much as I can, and just tunes. I feel like everything I want to achieve at this point feel like I've learned enough content to last me 3 lifetimes at this point. I feel at this point
Mm-hmm.
I need to delve into the history of the music going forward,
Mm-hmm.
bring out
Cool.
that material. So that's where I am right now.
Cool. No,
You know?
that's great. That's great. And just that kind of goes along with that answer. If you can give us, we have a few questions here to respond. If you can just give your thoughts here really quick on Sam Burns is asking for a classical guitarist who might be interested in developing transcription skills. Would you start with a melody, then bass, then chords? Can you just synthesize if some kind of guidelines, like for someone who wants to start transcribing and learn stuff by ear?
Sure. I would say, so is he talking about just like linear material, like soloing, just
Yeah,
like solos?
yeah. Well, I guess it could be solos, but it could also be like just transcribing the tune, learning the
Right.
changes and the bass, and then figuring out
Yeah.
what
Start,
chords.
right. Obviously, yeah. Start with the melody because the melody, especially in standard tunes, the melody is our guide to remembering the tune. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Right? It's like, so there's a G sharp, it's an E major triad. That reminds me that the second chord of All of Me is a dominant, E7. So the learning the melody, yeah, bass notes, and then listening for the harmonic structure. Start simple. Is it major tonality? Is it minor tonality? Is it diminished tonality? Okay, now sevenths. What kind of seventh chord is it? What kind of extensions are we hearing? And then you'll eventually start hearing a lot of the same structures, a lot of the same 3 6 2 5. One to flat three.
Hmm.
A lot of the same sort of things that happen in standard tunes. So yeah, melody, then bass motion, and then the content of the actual harmonic movement as well. Now, if we're talking like now transcribing a solo, yeah, I would start transcribing the solo, but not without awareness of the harmony. Otherwise, it's useless. Well, not useless. It's good for your ears. It's good for technique. But as far as like assimilating the material, yeah, knowing what that harmony is underneath. And I shouldn't use that term. I hate the term. I hate thinking about melody as being separate from chords. That's a whole other discussion. But hearing what the harmonic content is
Hmm.
in relation to those single notes, because if you can't analyze it up against the harmony, what's the point? You're
Hmm.
not going to learn any kind of language from it. You're not going to learn how to take that and change it and develop it and morph it into what it is that you do. So
Hmm.
analysis is super important. Not only learning it, but analyzing it. And that's why we do it. Try to get into the head and the style of the player. You know.
Hmm. That's great. That's awesome. We have a couple more here. José Ricardo, he's asking here what we suggest for a musician who never studied systematically improvisation and scales to get more used with improvisation and modes. Well, I can kind of address that. Sorry, let me come back here. Okay, so well, José is a good friend of mine here, a great classical guitarist from Brazil. Thank you, José, for joining us. Um, Well, that question is good. It is very good. And I get asked that a lot because I spend a lot of time with classical guitarists that are interested in learning a little more about improvisation. And I guess one of the things that are important at the beginning, you have to just listen to it, because a lot of people want to learn how to improvise and play jazz, but they just go to the books, they look for improvisation books and scales. And I mean, this is important and it's part of it, but you need to listen. It's like a language, right? You need to get used to the sound, to the way the improvisers build lines, how the melody behaves against the harmony, and the books will help. The books will help a lot, but just transcribing again. Mike just mentioned that, and I think it makes a lot of sense, and it connects to that the answer for your question, Jose. Transcribing a little bit, definitely to get used to the language. And there are ways also to incorporate the study of scales and arpeggios with your classical training. You can learn your scales, your arpeggios, and think about your classical technique. I actually presented in a conference in China last year, and was about that. It was about improvisation for classical guitarists, how to kind of blend a little bit those concepts that you need to know to improvise with the classical technical training that a classical guitarist needs. So if you're going to play an arpeggio or if you're going to play a scale, you're going to think about your tone, about the articulation, about technique, but you're also going to think about the harmonic implications of that scale. Okay, if you play that C major scale over a C chord, it's going to sound a certain way. If you play that C major scale over an F major chord, it's going to sound a different way. It's going to have a Lydian sound. So, and that conversation can go on and on. But I guess a combination of the study of scales and arpeggios, like Mike just said, along with an understanding and an immersion at the language, the jazz language. So learning solos by ear, it's definitely very, very helpful. Let's see. Do you have anything else to add, Mike, to that?
I think you're the authority on that. I mean, coming from your background with classical study and how to get into the stuff that you've now become so adept at, I would agree with that. Mm-hmm. I would only caution: be careful not to get lost in the quagmire of theory books and method books, because that can get a little bit overwhelming. Before you know it, you have a library of theory books all telling you how to do things in a different way, and next thing you know, you don't know where to begin, and you get very overwhelmed. At the end of the day, it's here. It's these two pieces of flesh on your head. It's learning the music in the tradition that it was always learned in. Trusting your ears and then letting the academics kind of follow that. And I can't pretend that that's how I learned the music. I started backwards. I started learning all the tunes wrong from the real book, and then having to use my ears and learn the right changes. It took me a long time to remember or to be taught the right way to learn that stuff. So we could save some people some time.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I can totally relate. Can totally relate.
Knowing for the first chord in blue and green is not a B flat major.
Yeah, G minor 6.
G minor 6, right? All those things.
Exactly.
Did I ever listen to it? No, I read it in the real book first, rather than opening my ears. Right?
Exactly. That makes sense. There is a question here from Rafael also. What's the most important thing in a study? If you're saying a study like meaning like a classical study, I guess, or when you practice like a certain piece of music, if I understood it correctly, your question, I guess anything you practice on the instrument, I really think it's about paying attention. If you're going to practice improvisation, if you're going to transcribe, if you're going to learn a new piece, you're going to practice the technique, it's all about paying attention. The attention is because you're going to be teaching your brain and your muscles to do something that's new. So you want to send in the right information, because if you practice wrong, if wrong technique, if you learn the change wrong, everything's being registered, and that's not good. So that's why a teacher is also important, because a teacher will guide you, and you're gonna show you where the best way, hopefully the best way of doing things. So, and if you're practicing like a study or a new piece or an arrangement that's new, that's written out, as you learn it, I highly advise you to take it really slow. Make sure that every movement is right, every single note is clean. So when you speed it up, you can get a better result. And a lot of students ask about playing fast. Playing fast, it's all about playing slow and with accuracy. Accuracy feeds speed. So if you wanna, like someone's gonna play a scale, something like this, like a simple scale. See if I can, just like a few notes. It's easy to see someone having the result of getting there and playing really fast. But the thing is, the process, no one really knows the process, right? Because that's not on the CD, that's not on the live stream, that's not on the video, that's not on the gig. On the gig, they're just playing what they practiced for years, So what my point is, you have to start slow and think about every single motion. Right hand. This is a very simple example, but if you're gonna learn a new lick, I was talking to a friend who's here, Fernando. I was showing him like a part of a lick that was a Pat Metheny lick. It's kind of awkward fingering, so you have to start really slow and make sure that every note's in the right place. Then you get good time, good tone, but everything comes from playing really slow and paying attention. Pay attention how your muscle feels, how your shoulders feel. Everything physical also affects the sound. So really make sure you address those things, and don't try to get shortcuts. Use your metronome, play really slow and accurate, because I honestly, I don't know any other way. I really wish there was another way. I think Mike's gonna agree with me on that one. Start playing fast.
The only other thing I would add to that is I agree with you 100%. Breaking it down to the most common denominator, just really slowing it down and just analyzing everything that needs to be done. The only thing that I've found in the last few years that I find completely interesting, and this happened from students, where a student would ask me to slow something down, and I would slow it down, and they would say, well, that doesn't look anything like what your hand is doing when you play it fast. So it led me to realize, and there's a lot of educators and there's a lot of guitarists that talk about this, is that at really, really breakneck tempos, sometimes the anatomy changes, the angle of the pick. When we're playing at a slower tempo, it's one thing. But then when we speed it up, all of a sudden there's a little bit of a pick slant. There's the motion is coming from a really, like, if I'm playing something like you just, we were doing that. Remember that famous Paul Gilbert lick from back in the day? Like, now, when I do that fast, like, my hand doesn't look anything like what it looks like when I'm playing it slow. So, my greatest mentor ever, Charlie Banakis, God rest his soul, who was a genius in all aspects of motor skills too, when it came to like the body, would recommend that, yeah, you play it slow and work it out, but try to do it as fast as you possibly can, like a fluid motion. Now, there can never be any tension. Make sure there's no tension, but try to do something like, like that line. Just play that. That felt completely different when I played it fast. And I bet you if we slowed my hand down, my hand wouldn't even look the same. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
it was a student that first brought that up to me, and I've seen clips like online, like people going, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing when it's fast," because it's almost like this separate physical thing that happens. So I would recommend twofold, like slow it down, map it out, super slow. But there's something to be said for just going for it,
Yes. Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah.
and and not and not worry about those minuscule metronome increments.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I've tried to do that, and I get more results when I map it out slow and then try and do it
Yes.
fast
Yeah,
rather than do it
and I think
quickly.
that's the key that you mentioned last, which is I think the problem a lot of students have, and I used to have when I was younger, is that knowing when you're ready to make that jump.
Right,
So I guess my point was, and I totally agree with you too. My point was like until you at least know where the notes sit, there
right,
is like a basic ground
absolutely,
that you have to have clear, and that brings me another idea that I tell my students too. You only learn how to play fast by playing fast.
right,
If you
yeah.
only practice slow and on the gig you're gonna try it fast, it's not gonna work.
It's like
S
controlling the car when you put it into gear. Like you go, you know
uh,
what I
uh,
mean? You go like 0 to 60. You're gonna have to control that car.
exactly.
It just feels different. The
Hmm.
anatomy feels
Yeah,
completely
and I
different.
mean, and there are a few other things, like for example, when you play a sweep picking thing, certain things it's easier to rush.
Right,
Although I have one there though, like a lot of people who say, I had some students who tell me like I can only do that really fast, and when they play fast, what happens is, uh, it's not clean, but it's fast, so it's not clean for a short period of time, so they think it's good.
yeah,
So I mean, that's kind of the other side of the coin. So
right. Then the
like
prep work, you haven't done the initial ground.
exactly,
I
exactly.
agree
Like
with
doing some, just even like a little repetition, just being able to like control and make it even. Like and make sure the tone is good, the
you.
notes are even, and then you can speed it up. Because some people might say, oh, I can't play really fast. Like I didn't hear anything. I just hear the
Right.
top note. So like
Bottom note
really,
at the top.
yeah.
If we put that into transcription software, we slowed it down, it would be like,
Exactly.
right?
Like and it clack 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 clack. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no,
Exactly.
I agree. That's it. And another thing to answer to that question is why the concern with playing fast. There's another concern.
Exactly.
Why do you ask that?
Mm-hmm.
My answer for I need to play fast is usually I have to do a gig and the song is brutal and I have to execute this. You know what I mean? So we should also ask ourselves why we're asking ourselves now if it's to develop techniques so we have something at our disposal.
Mm-hmm.
But we also want to be careful not to get caught up in that whole music as competition garbage, which just stifles us as artists. And you
Uh-huh.
definitely don't want to get into that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So why do you want to play fast? If you got a gig this weekend and you got to play "Got a Match" by Chick Corea, all right, then we need to talk. It's like that's
Exactly.
so.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I really like that saying, and I don't know where I heard it. Someone famous said it once, but I just really loved this idea. You have to practice, have good technique, good control of your instrument, so you can serve the music and make the music great.
Yeah,
Not the other way around, where you use the music to show how good your technique is.
right.
And this is a very common thing, especially among guitarists.
Hmm.
I don't see that as
Not
much with
us.
bass
We're the
players.
we're the least important part of it. We're the least important part of it. The compositions, the tunes, the song
Yeah, and
is the
just sometimes just enjoying like a sound, like a minor chord with a nine on top of it. Like there's just something beautiful about this that in itself, the tone,
right.
like just think about sound, think about harmony. I mean, it's great to play fast and be. I think the music sometimes needs it.
Absolutely. And look, I don't want to be all sanctimonious. Of course, I went through periods when I was younger where there was an aspect of that, and the ego will never be gone. The ego will always creep up, you know. But again, to offer some advice to save people some trouble maybe in their path is that causes a lot of discomfort and it causes anxiety, and you don't want that on the bandstand. And when you're on the bandstand, it's the music. And if you're thinking about yourself, if you're thinking about your instrument and how fast you're playing and how impressive you look to your peers, you're missing out on your peers because your peers are on the bandstand with you and you're not even listening to them. It's about the music and it's about communing with those that are to your left and your right. And if you're thinking about this and you and that's the ego, it's like you're missing what the piano player is playing. You just missed the sharp 11 that the piano player played. You can't play it in your voicing now because you missed it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we can't communicate. And your audience is going to tell that. Your audience can sense that. Mm-hmm. Even if your audience is lay people and they don't play, they can sense when you're not connecting. So believe me, I'm a believer in fundamentals. We all got to have the fundamentals down because that's what makes us more creative. But we got to get caught up not too much in the sound of our own thing as much as we want to sound good. You know, it needs to be about the music and the communion with the other players that we're playing with. There's nothing else. There's no other point.
Yeah, I can't agree more. No, that's great. Very well put. Well, we are here getting close to our last part. So maybe we could each of us maybe play a short song. What do you think? Maybe, yeah. And then can each of us maybe play a short 1-2 minute song. And then if you guys have any final questions for us or comments about anything that we've done or any of the topics we talked about, please feel free to write in the chat. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna play one song each here. We wish we could play together, but for obvious reasons here, we don't have enough technology yet. There are a lot of people doing research and trying to make that happen where you can play in real time with someone else in another part of the globe, but not yet. So for now, we are gonna, maybe each of us can play a little thing, and then we are gonna get to the last part and the closing remarks. Do you want to play first, or you want me to play?
Yeah, I'll do something real short, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Oh no, it's all good, man. We're happy to hear you.
Let's see. These are tough times, man. There's tough stuff going on. This tune called Peace. I don't know. I didn't prep it. I love that tune, though.
Yeah, Mike, that's beautiful, man.
Horace Silver.
Yeah, sounds really great. Sounds great. Well, yeah, I'm gonna play here my last tune to since I have so many friends from Brazil, I figure I should play something Brazilian. So I'm gonna play here by famous Brazilian composer Luiz Bonfá. Luiz Bonfá was one, along with Tom Jobim, Antonio Carlos Jobim was one of the great bossa nova composers in Brazil. And funny thing about this tune that here everybody in the States know it as a Black Orpheus. And I still remember when I moved to the US, I don't know, 8 years ago, I went to play on a jam session. And those guys knew I was Brazilian, and they was like, "Oh, cool! Let's play Black Orpheus. You probably know Black Orpheus." And I was on the bandstand with my guitar. I was like, a Brazilian tune called Black Orpheus. Like, I didn't know that tune, but then, of course, and they started, like, the saxophone player started singing. I was like, I know that. That's Manhã de Carnaval. That's not Black Orpheus. That's not the name of it. So here in the US, for the Brazilian friends who are watching, Manhã de Carnaval by Luiz Bonfá, here they know it as Black Orpheus because of the movie. It became really popular here because of the movie Black Orpheus, was soundtrack for that movie. And is listed on the real book as Black Orpheus, and I think a few recordings here are also labeled the tune as Black Orpheus. But in Brazil, it's Morning of Carnival, Manhã de Carnaval. So I'm happy. It was great because I knew the tune, like I just arrived here and wow, I don't know the tune they want to call. It's a Brazilian tune, but luckily I knew it. It was just a misunderstanding with the name. So by Luiz Bonfá, Manhã de Carnaval, or if you prefer, Black Orpheus.
Beautiful, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. But we are getting close to the end here, but we still have time for a few questions. We're going to go until about 9:30, 1 hour and a half, I think. So let's try to answer. Sorry, my microphone was off. Now I have it here. So we are going to go until about 9:30, 9:35 or something. So we have a few questions here to respond. Um, so let's see. Um, okay, so Mike, it's a question here for both of us. Sam is asking about our master degrees
Mhm.
and what we studied during that time. I can just share it here pretty quickly with you guys. So I during my masters I had two master's degrees, and the first one in classical guitar. I didn't really have the way that my master's was set up. I had several smaller theses to do rather than have one big one. So I actually studied the music, the influence of uh, bossa nova on American jazz, and the influence of jazz on bossa nova. So it was a paper about the musical exchange between Brazil and the United States. American jazz influenced bossa nova in the early 60s a lot. Um, but later, with the development of bossa nova and other Brazilian styles, also those Brazilian styles influenced the United States and American jazz. So I talk about that relationship. For my doctorate, was my research was more related to guitar, and a lot of it was about arranging for solo guitar. Was about putting together the pieces, like to play, to be like an improviser and a classical guitarist. I studied the music of Ralph Towner a lot, which is a classical guitarist who improvises. So I did a lot of that back and forth between classical guitar and jazz guitar, things like that. Mike, do you want to share a little bit about your experience during your master's degree?
Yeah, from what I can remember, in the program I was in, there didn't need to be any kind of thematic idea. I was a performance major, so it was just basically a paper uh, with the analysis of what I was doing for my recitals in the track that my private teacher and I had come up with. So I had to do two recitals for the masters. Um, I think the first one was a good combination. It was always a good representation of what I was, which was it was always like half and half, like fusion and straight ahead, and with a few classical pieces. Um, the last recital the second recital I had to do was pretty much split up evenly, like all arch top and classical for the first half, and then all fusion stuff for the second half. But there really wasn't any sort of track for, all right, this is the idea for the thesis that I'm putting forth. It was just, all right, here's an analysis paper of the recital, which consisted of transcription, harmonic analysis, melodic analysis, some biographical information. From what I remember, that's pretty much what it was. It was up to me and my professor. I did my grad work with a phenomenal guitarist by the name of John Wheatley. Just brilliant. Name any song in the American Songbook, name a key, you can't stump him. He's a genius. He teaches at Berkeley now, and he's still at UMass as well. But so it's pretty much my track that we put together.
Cool, cool. That's great. Um, Guys, well, we got here a lot of great comments from Leandro, from Logan. Thank you all so much, Jennifer. Thank you for your support. Sam. I'm just gonna ask you guys if you guys don't mind to give us a like. There's a button there that if it's not blue yet, please make sure it turns blue. That helps the channel, to grow. Um, and also, if you are not subscribed yet, and you are interested in this kind of content about music, about guitar, uh, uh, please go ahead and subscribe. The plan is to do one of those every week. Probably next week we are gonna be doing one, probably on Thursday. So if you and about the same time, and it's gonna be the same kind of format. I'm gonna start sharing some ideas, and then I'll bring a guest with me. So please make sure smash that like button for me and subscribe if you can to the channel. Um, we let's see here if we have any other comments or questions that I forgot. Um, we can talk a little bit. I saw that we had was a little bit ago. We had conversation here. Oh, Afonso came here. Afonso, I hope you're well, man. Thanks for joining us. Dane Swanson, she aspires she's an aspiring blues guitarist and songwriter, and she's asking about Belmont. We can tell you that Belmont is a great community. We love working there. I'm pretty sure Mike's gonna agree with me. He's been there a little longer than me, but we have a really strong guitar program. We also have a really strong music business program, and it's just a great community. And Brandon, the bonus, thank you for answering her question there on the chat. Appreciate it very much.
Oh, D-Bone's on there?
I'm sorry? Brandon the
D-Bone?
bonus, yeah.
I didn't know.
Is he a student?
No, he was in my ensemble.
Oh, yeah. Great guy.
D-Bone.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about your social media stuff? How to reach out to you?
Sure. I mean, yeah. Please follow my my Instagram. I mean, obviously Facebook, but more of my. I think if you're into guitar and the type of stuff that we've been talking about here, there's probably more interesting content for you on my Instagram. It's just Mike Valeras. It's just my name. So please add me. And there's instructional content. There's funny content. You can hear me play a standard 1 minute and then play a great 80s solo the next, just because it kind of gets me off to do that. So please add me on Instagram, Mike Valeras.
Yeah, and if they need to get in touch with you, they can just text you through Instagram.
Yeah,
right?
lessons, consultations, any of that stuff. Just shoot me a message on Instagram or my Facebook as well, or my website. MikeValerasmusic.com. Sometimes we forget about the old-fashioned websites, but they're still there.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great. Well, let's see here if we have Cleverson Lima, my friend. Paul, I'm fascinated by his technique and musicality. I wish you much success in your career, my friend. Thank you so much, Cleverson. Appreciate it. Sounds like Cleverson enjoyed your playing, Mike. He's a good friend of mine from Brazil, great guitarist.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cleverson, for joining us here. We are getting close to the end. I kind of don't want to end that, but 1 hour and a half.
We go all night, man.
I can just keep going, But in Brazil, it's already like 11. I don't even know, 11:30 there now, so it's pretty late.
Yeah.
But we really appreciate everyone hanging out.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, and please, so next Thursday, tune in again with us the same time. I might send some emails and some messages, but if you subscribe and you have your the notification on, it's the easiest way, because then you're gonna know when it's gonna happen. Mike, thank you so much for your time, man.
Hope we get to do it again. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a good hang. We haven't really spent time together in a while because teaching from home and stuff, but. Yep. It's really nice to just hang out, talk, play a little bit.
This is great. Good luck with the series, man. This is great.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you all. We are getting close to the end here. One more time, I'm gonna ask you to subscribe and smash that button, that like button, if you haven't yet. And I'll see you next time. Probably next Thursday about the same time. So probably gonna do it every Thursday. I think that would be like a kind of a better day. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mike. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.